Let's just keep it simple tonight. You know, let's just have a little bit of fun. Cause look, recently I've just been kind of sitting back and enjoying the view, man. I'm not even gonna lie to you, bro. And I'm not even talking about no scenic shit. I'm just enjoying everything from a distance now, you know, a 3D rendering of everything. I feel like nowadays, the way things are moving, the way everything is going, it's moving fast and furious. And sometimes you just kind of have to chill and kind of kick back. Because, bro, that's all you can truly do, because nothing else really matters, bro. I feel like it's been so much stress on everybody's mind for no reason. 90% of the shit that we got going on in our lives, we have no control over. The only control you have is on your attitude, and that's truly how I've been feeling. I can't even lie to you. I've been focusing more on what I can do. I've been really like putting all my energy in my own bucket. I haven't really had the energy to really invest it anywhere else. I've only had energy to really just invest in myself and just focus on what I got going on. And I don't know if that's selfish of me or if that's like me being, you know, like an adult. Because I feel like the more I worry about other things, the more I start stressing about other things, it just kind of doesn't get anywhere. The more I'm trying to juggle everything and I'm trying to focus on everything, the more it feels out of control. And I just kind of just said, fuck it, bro. Let's just kick back and see how it goes. Because I'm starting to get to a point in life where it is what it is. Like, I was in that point a couple months ago, right? Like, I was. I think you get to that point ever so often in your life where you go into it is what it is mindset because you've been getting belt to ass so bad. Life has been whooping you so bad that you just kind of go, it is what it is. You can't do much about it, right? Like sometimes you just kind of have to sit back and just be like, hey, look, I'm giving it my all. So today I really just kind of sat back. I went and cleaned my garage. I cleaned my fucking attic. I just wanted to get my mind off of things. It made me think about other things. Don't get me wrong. It had me focusing on a lot of shit on my mind. And sometimes you have to like really process some emotions and some bullshit that you've been dealing with in the day. And that's what I was doing. And I think cleaning and any kind of organizing really helps with that. Helps with your mind adjusting unprocessed thoughts and unprocessed bullshit that's going on. And I sure as hell know everybody got some unprocessed bullshit going on right now because we see what the fuck's going on with this war. We see what the fuck's going on with like the economy. We see what is going on with the job market. Everywhere you look, it just feels very dark and gloomy. And when it gets dark and gloomy, you just kind of start losing hope. And I don't want you to lose hope, chat. Like, I really, last couple of streams have been looking back at them and I'm like, dude, all I've been doing is talking about this war shit. I'm a fucking comedian. I can't really constantly talk about this war shit. And I think the number one thing I've been lacking on is I've been avoiding stand-up. Like, I don't know if I've been avoiding it per se or just haven't had that spark. And I truly think it's a little bit of both. Because I've been doing more work. You know, I've been going to work a little bit longer. I've been putting in a little bit extra hours so I can get a raise and kind of get a little promotion. That's what I've been working towards. I've also picked up a side job. I'm trying to drive Uber time to time, right? Like I'm really in my Uber fit right now. You know, like I'm trying my hardest to get my money up because that's what I have under control. Truly. That's what I can focus on is how do I invest my time into something that repays me? And the issue is nowadays it's hard to do that because it's feeling so doom and gloom. It feels like the harder you work, the more ass whoopings you get. I'm yawning because I've been fucking working 60, 70-hour weeks the last couple of weeks. And I can't even complain because I know motherfuckers are working 80 to 100 hours. So it kind of puts a lot of things into perspective. The more you work, the harder you work, the more grind you truly do, the more fulfilled you will get. And that's, I will say, I've been feeling a little bit more fulfilled. Before I was filling up that time with stand-up. And I truly feel like I have a mental block. I've been avoiding really talking about it because I don't know how to get past that mental block. It's been kind of an issue. And I don't know if that mental block is coming from the level of gooning I've been doing. Like, I'm going to be honest, chat. Like, I'm going to be dead ass with y'all. I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm going to keep it a buck 50. I've been gooning at least every day, if not every other day. I've been trying not to goon that often. And I think that's the problem with accessibility of this goon material. No matter, I've deleted my social medias. I've not been on Instagram. I've not been on TikTok. I've been using Facebook like a fucking unk, you know? I feel like I've been using Facebook like I'm a fucking grandpa, you know? But I use the excuse that I'm on Facebook because it helps me get shows for stand-up and it helps me gather comedy stuff. But the issue is I've not really been going to comedy shows. I've not been doing any stand-up. I've not been going to any open mics. I've not done anything in the realm of stand-up. So in all reality, I'm kind of bullshitting myself. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a bean with you. I've been writing a little bit more, and it's not even full-on paragraphs. I've been genuinely investing my time into at least coming up with ideas, coming up with a few premises, let's put it that way. But I haven't put them to work. I haven't gone on stage and really put them to work because that's the biggest issue is like you can have the brightest premise on earth and if you don't put it on stage and if you don't say it in front of a crowd, it's not going to work. And the other part is that if you stay away from the stage as long as I have, your skills would atrophy. And I'm feeling like that is the case with me. I'm feeling like my skills have atrophied. I genuinely feel like my stage presence has probably gone down because I've not put in the effort to be on stage. I've been kind of just focused on the money aspect of things and really giving up comedy for it, which is not something that I want to do, but it is something I feel like I have to do. Because at the end of the day, bro, sometimes you got to do grown man shit. And that's reality. Sometimes you just got to do grown man shit. And I feel like that's where I'm at. And it's kind of accompanying my writer's block. It's been kind of accompanying my lack of confidence. Let's put it that way. That's the easiest word to describe the lack of energy and motivation I have to get on stage. The lack of confidence to be on stage. Since I took a little hiatus in September, December, I've not really been back on stage, and it's been about 3, 4 months now, Chad. It's middle of March, and I've maybe done a handful of shows this year. Typically, by now, I'm doing double-digit shows. I'm doing a couple shows a week. But I think I want to kind of reinvent the stand-up that I've been doing, right? Like I don't want to get that's what I was feeling like towards the end, like towards September, October. I was kind of in that feeling. Even in November, I was having this feeling of feeling stuck. And I am not meaning stuck as in I don't know what to do from here. It was just like I built a box for myself and I was comfortable in it. And I feel like I think everybody runs into this time to time when you've been doing something very long and when you've been putting a lot of effort. You finally get to a place where you feel comfortable. And it's hard to change because change is not easy. And that's how I started feeling about stand-up, because I was going through a character development. And that character development is a little bit harder to do whenever you're like in the early stages, right? I'm still in the early stages of stand-up. I've not been doing it longer than a couple of years, right? It's going to be my 4th year after this summer, I believe. I am not 100%. It's a give or take my 4th year doing stand-up. And this is the time where you truly figure out if this is for you or not. And I've been battling with that for a little while. Because stand-up is not easy, right? You go do some shows, and I'm sure if you watch some of my previous streams, you can kind of see the bitterness that I started to have. And I don't even want to call it bitterness. It was a level of frustration. Because I wasn't bitter in the sense of that other people were, doing better than me. Well, let's be honest. Some of the comedians that were getting shows was pissing me off. But I wasn't bitter at the fact that they were getting shows. I was bitter at the fact that I wasn't getting better, or in my opinion, giving it my all. And that's what pissed me off and made me bitter, because I wish I could grind harder. I wish I could put a little bit more effort, but I was working. And that the fact of the matter in my mind was, when you feel that you're doing the most, you're doing all that you can, you start limiting yourself because your self-doubt kicks in. At least for me, it did. Where, damn, I've given it 110% and I'm not even getting 5% in return. So am I delusional? Am I the crazy one? Or is this really going to be valuable sometime? And I think that really hits the core when you're putting in your 110% and you're not getting anything in return. And sometimes that's God's plan. That's God's plan to see how bad do you want it. And especially in stand-up, it truly feels like God tests you every step of the way. Like, how bad do you want this? Do you want this as bad as you want to breathe? Do you want this as bad as you really say you do? Because it does not seem like it. And I question that sometimes. Because I may be thinking I'm giving it 110%, but that might be the delusion, that I'm thinking that I'm giving it 110%. Whereas if you go from a third party perspective, they see your potential and you're only giving 50%. And I think that's what requires a step away. Like a little step away fade, You gotta hit you gotta hit a step back fade, Or you're gonna take a step back and really assess in, where am I lacking? What am I not thinking of? What are the steps that I am not taking? What are the options that I am not choosing? And genuinely, that's what I felt like I was doing, but it turned into procrastination. It turned into excuses. It turned into hindrance. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but it turned into a brick wall. A brick wall that I built myself, brick by brick, one doubt at a time, one second guess at a time, one anxious attack at a time. And the only way I could truly fix it is I run through that fucking brick wall. It's gonna hurt. It's genuinely gonna hurt. And that's a metaphor for life. I feel like I come on here and express myself because I truly think this is like the diary of an open mic comic. To me, this is like season 3 diary of an open mic comic. Because I've had my early stages when I figured out how to run comedy, right? Like I figured out, hey, this is what I need to do. And this is what I should do. This is where I need to go. These are the clubs I need to focus on. And I think I've kind of gotten that down. Like, I know now on what to say yes to and what to say no to. I've kind of gotten a little bit picky. I am not really looking for the numbers on, hey, bro, I hit 5 shows this week. Like, it's quality over quantity for me now. But it still matters that I'm hitting a few shows. The last couple months, it's feeling like I'm not all there comedically. And I don't know if it's just because of the fact that I got in a comedy beef, and that got me a little bit of clout and aura for sure. But it did take the love away from stand-up for a bit. But that's the fact of the matter is you're letting the enemy win when you take a step back and you let them win by keep on keeping on. And I can't let that happen. Because I see all these other motherfuckers that are worse than me. And it could be the bitterness coming out. Sure. Could be, possibly. Hey, look. Diary of an open mic comic. We got to be honest here, chat. We're keeping a $1.50. Well, $1.99 because inflation. But I started to feel this way when I got into a few comedy beefs. Somebody that started to start a fight with me, and another comic that I used to think was a friend started being weird. Started being a full-on snake. Lost a couple of friends last year. And that kind of hurt. Truly it did hurt. Because when you call somebody friend, when you call somebody a homie, you would think that they're with you till the end. They will ride or die with you till the end. But truly, that's not true in this world. Not anymore, at least. The world has changed. The people in it have changed. I don't want to come off selfish. I don't want to sound selfish. I don't want to sound at all selfish. But you have to take matters into your own hands and focus on you and focus on what you got going on, because nobody else will. The thing is, you sometimes, I know I sometimes refer to myself in third person because I'm just kind of looking back at some of these streams and assessing how I, am word vomiting. Sometimes I can express my things on camera and just yap, but I can't say that to myself. Unless I'm sitting down and rewatching some of these videos back. Which I do often, and I'm very critical of them because I need to get better, right? In order for me to get better, I have to be incredibly critical. Obviously, I have to, have a few things that I like about them, but I also need to have a couple things that are like, hey, we can improve here, we can improve there. I need to do this, I need to do that. I think there's always improvements that can be made, but there's always good things that need to be accepted. And that's what I'm trying to balance in my life. And that is the cosmic balance of the world, the good versus the evil, right? What good are you doing? And what bad are you doing? And how can you improve that bad to make it on the good side? At some point, you will get to a level where everything that you do cannot be any more maximized. And that's okay, because now you will go on to another venture. That's true mastery. And true mastery really comes after 10,000 hours. I know 10,000 hours, they say you get great at something, but I think 10,000 hour gives you the mastery. It gives you the level of I'm getting somewhere with this. I'm not a novice anymore. I'm not just a noob. After 10,000 hours, if you keep going, you will become a master at what you're doing, a master at your craft. And I truly feel like that's where I want to be with stand-up. Whether it be, speaking, whether it be being funny, whatever it is, I want to put my 10,000 hours in. And that's how I feel getting on stream, getting on, videos, doing all kinds of stuff is putting my 10,000 hours in. It's putting my brick by brick to build a wall. Sometimes that insecurity does kick in, and that's unfortunate. I still battle through that to this day. I think everybody does. Any comic that says they have not felt insecurity on stage, well, they're not working hard enough, or they just don't give a fuck enough. Maybe someday I get to a point where I don't feel that insecurity. And I don't know if the correct word is insecurity. It might just be just a lack of confidence. It might be a lack of awareness. It might be, I don't know. I'm still working that out between myself. Because I truly feel like I'm giving it in my all. Like, I really think so. And if I wasn't putting the effort that I am genuinely now, then I don't think I would have cared enough to keep on going. Stand-up has been on and off in my life. It's like a toxic relationship. When I need it, it's there for me. When I truly need it, it's there for me. And when I step away, I feel the repercussions of not giving it my all. It gives me structure. And I think everybody has that. It might be family that gives them that. It might be, friends that give them that. For me, it's stand-up. It gives me structure. It gives me hope. It gives me a level of purpose. Stand-up gives me purpose. And that's the honest truth. I've not felt that before. There's been times in life where I felt lost before stand-up, before being on stage, before putting pen to pad. I felt confused, lost, just absolutely bewildered. Because I saw everybody have something. They might have family, they might have friends, they might have something to do. They always had something that they look forward to or they had going on. Whereas me, I just felt like, damn, why do I not have that? Even though I had it, I just didn't feel it. I don't know if this was something I built or this was something I was born with. I don't know. But over time, it started to affect me. I started to notice it more, especially during high school time, when I started to see people have friends and always have something to do. They always had a busy schedule. I didn't feel like I did. That's why I discovered YouTube. And that's why I truly fell in love with the creation aspect of content creation, right? And that basically is, writing the ideas down, putting the team together and just creating the actual content. And that aspect of content creation gave me a purpose. I enjoyed it for a little while. And then, of course, in high school, I got in a little bit of trouble for creating too many fucking dank videos, too many dank memes. That got me in trouble with the school because they said, hey, you can't be making fun of schools like that. I was tweeting at our fucking school for losing the football team. I mean, the football team losing so much. They kept losing every game, so I kept roasting them, and I was making videos about it, and I kept getting in trouble. And then I started to see my friends get in trouble. And then they started to not associate themselves with me because I had negative press. And I wanted friends. I really did. But YouTube was taking that away from me. At least that's what I felt at the time. And I stepped away from it. And it was kind of my biggest regret for a little while that I stepped away from YouTube. I stepped away from content creation for a couple of years. And I really started to party. I got into drugs. I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the disappointment of not recording. So I rather just party and forget about it. That's the cold, honest truth. I love to create. Create cringe or create content. It's one of the same. There is no content without cringe. There's just no such thing called content without the cringe. There will be cringe at the beginning, but I think you have to push past that aspect. And that's with anything that you do. You have to give it your all. You have to put forth the effort of embarrassing yourself. You have to put forth the love and affection you have for that thing to possibly fail. Because to fail is to learn. And learning is just the first step of succeeding. And I'm not going to lie, I failed quite a bit in my life. Shit, I could be the guru of failure. I don't know. And sometimes it does hurt your ego. It does hurt the pride of, shit, am I the loser? Because you see your friends really getting somewhere with things. They start becoming successful financially. And they start moving past you. And that's what hurts the most because you're like, damn, bro. I'm chasing this dream. And at the end of it, is it really going to be worth it? And you don't know. And that sacrifice is what truly defines your legacy. How much are you willing to sacrifice for your dream? How much are you willing to give up and move on with? Because at the end of the day, when you want something like that, when you want that win, when you want that level of devotion to a craft, you have to give it your all. That level of greatness can only be achieved in one way, and one way only. By sacrificing everything. And truly, that is the price of greatness. And I can truly say, especially taking a little hiatus, a couple months off from stand-up, that I'm truly chasing greatness. I know Timothy Charlemagne has said this. He's chasing great. Yes, I'm with him on that. I'm chasing greatness in the realm of stand-up. It might take 1 year. It might take 5 years. It might take 10 years. It might take 20. And that's what I've been pondering the last couple of months. Am I willing to just sit here and be a loser? So that way, in the end, I really get to say, I gave it my all. And really, that is the risk that we all have to take some point or another. Am I willing to lose it all?
Or you even step foot in the room.
And I think
whoever you are in the hustles and the men
Let's get right into
follow the
it,
very
chat.
same principles as big cons like this, just on a smaller stage. By comparing Benny Safdie's Marty Supreme to the greatest pool movie of all time, Robert Rossen's The Hustler, we can see how a flawlessly executed hustle scene becomes a window into the heart of each main character. In the way the filmmakers construct each con, the true nature of the grifter is exposed.
You think this makes me want to lose? It makes me want to win. Sometimes when you lose, you're a winner.
Sir, you think I'm a loser?
A loser?
Let's start with Marty Mauser, played by Timothy Chalamet.
Rusted orange. The blimp. Maybe make it glow in the dark.
For context, Marty is a table tennis player on a mission to prove that he's the best in the world. To do that, he needs to rematch this guy.
I'm 10 trillion times better than Endo. You understand that, right? It's the racket that beat me. He's a mediocre player.
The first problem is that Marty lives here, and he needs to get here. And the second, he's broke. But that's never held him back before. See here.
I'm actually pointing a gun at you right now. I'm actually threatening to use it.
And here.
This is not real.
I mean, it's not
Total
real.
fake.
It came from the neck of a millionaire. I saw it come off her neck.
Or even here.
You've been a really bad boy. Now you're going to get a spanking.
Come on.
You want to get to Japan, don't you?
But surely there's a better way than this. Something repeatable, suited to his skill set, that fans his ego and pays well. After all, he has a gift. He's not just good at table tennis. He's the best.
Okay, great. Bring your cab and as much cash as you can.
And that's truly how I feel about stand-up, bro. I can't even lie to you, bro. That's how I fucking feel about stand-up, chat. I'm not just good. I'm the fucking best.
I want you to meet me at the Halsey on 28th Street, okay?
What? You want to go hustling again?
With $50 and a dog between the two of them, Marty and his friend Wally gun it to a bowling alley.
By the way, we gotta do this every night for 2 weeks, or else I can't go to Japan.
No.
The plan is left intentionally vague to the audience, and we cut to Marty walking in. Spotting Wally at the far table with a bloody nose, it's hard to tell how much time has passed. This is important. A good hustle scene disorients the audience and makes them doubt what's real. Is his nose really bleeding? When did that happen? Soon enough, Marty finds his mark.
Who wants snaps? Can I play? Hey, can I play? $1 a game. Okay. What's your name? Seth.
A fake name. Seth isn't a world-famous table tennis player. He's a random guy from the street, killing time at the ping pong table. In the Big Con, Maurer lays out 10 principles of Big Con games, which we can loosely track for this small-scale con. First is to locate and investigate a well-to-do victim, or the mark. Check. After that's done, we get to work gaining his confidence. Play a few games, establish your mediocre skill, and don't raise suspicion. Marty must not outshine his opponent. After all, only losers get lucky. Marty needs to show everyone that he's a loser. Next, the inside man joins the fray.
Man, I gave him my last 10. I'll play.
Wally sits at the epicenter of this hustle.
Wally.
Bro, I might have to watch this movie. It seems pretty epic. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all.
His name is.
He's been hard at work building rapport with the locals. A personable, honest, down-on-his-luck cab driver with a believable sob story.
The guy chokes me out, punching me in the back of the head. Takes my
Our
money.
inside man is winning the crowd,
No.
and they love him.
You've had a rough enough day already. Keep it.
Thank you, brother.
The goal is for Wally to earn the loyalty of the crowd, so in the face of someone much worse, they take his side. It's Marty against Wally.
What's going on here?
Colored boy is about to lose all his money.
Yeah, this asshole right here.
Staging the most exciting game possible for the crowd, Wally loses. The fan favorite is left without $1 to get home, and the arrogant, lucky kid who won't spare $5 has turned every person in the room against him.
Walk. Just let him keep 5. No, all right, you've been a dick all night. Just stop being greedy.
The stage is set to perfection. Time to make some money. Like David and Goliath, the crowd send in their hero to play for Wally's gas money.
I got it. Yeah. Let us numbnuts for his gas money.
Let's up the stakes. Step 6.
Fine, $40.
Then, put him on the send. Allocate the funds. The cavalry comes in for support, emptying their pockets of all their cash, and even, compelled by Roger's
kind of
sure
smart.
victory,
I might have to do this at the comedy clubs. You know, start finessing. Boy, roast battles. Hey, $5 for a roast battle. Let's get it.
That's on top. Then
Low-key,
comes
that's
the
a pretty good
payoff that
idea.
makes it all worth it. Take off the touch and fleece him. We don't see this final game play out, but we know what happened. Roger never stood a chance. As Maurer puts it, in the mad frenzy of cheating someone else, he's unaware of the fact that he is the real victim, carefully selected and fatted for the kill. This hustle scene and the ensuing aftermath perfectly encapsulate Marty's character.
Everything in my life's falling apart, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Do you need any help? I could help you.
No, it's all right.
Can I do anything?
It's all right. No. Are you hungry?
Hustling is how he pays his lavish debts and affords his dreams. Everything and everyone comes second to his pursuit of greatness.
And what do you plan to do if this whole dream of yours doesn't work out?
That doesn't even enter my consciousness.
He manipulates those he calls friends.
Look, it's gonna live on your conscience forever. Why would you do this to yourself?
And even family.
And you go to jail.
Really? You do that to your own kin? You out of your mind?
Without considering the ramifications left in his wake. Marty's true self and his fake name persona are nearly indistinguishable. The blurred line of separation between reality and performance
He's
highlights
acting within a movie? Or acting within acting? Actingception. What?
Marty's true character, or more accurately, his lack thereof. Chasing success is all he's ever known, and this scene demonstrates that beneath the scheming, he has nothing and loves no one but himself. The manipulation, the hustling, the theft, the sweet talking, that's all that's left of him. In a strange irony, the hustle shows us who Marty is without it. When he finally gets to Japan, Marty is told,
You haven't come far enough, I'm afraid. You have wasted your time coming here.
for the first time, this is defeat that he can't talk his way out of, or wave a gun at, or run from. He lost. In facing this truth that his best was not enough to achieve his dream, that he never will be the best, something changes inside him. Something becomes more important than that all-consuming dream. The scene that follows is one of the greatest climaxes in sports drama. But
Wait,
wait a
does
minute.
he win?
Go back.
Wait, does he win or does he lose? What?
Who is this guy? His name is Eddie Felson. Back in his prime, 25 years before Scorsese's Legacy sequel, he and Marty had a lot in common.
Play it safe.
They called him Fast Eddie,
Well, here we go. Fast and loose.
a pool hustler.
You like to gamble, Eddie? Gamble money on pool games?
In 1961, Robert Rossen released a film starring Paul Newman that flawlessly portrays the art of the hustle in its very first scene.
I think I got a little grease in this lining here.
We watch as two well-dressed men stroll into a bar, presumably killing some time while their car is serviced. Before we suspect anything is afoot, the con is already underway, a realization that only occurs looking back from the title sequence. The two men linger for conversation at the bar, while the pool table looms in the background. First, they must sell themselves as honest salesmen passing through for a drink. This is Maurer's second step, gaining the victim's confidence. Eddie Felson has become quite infamous as the pool gambler from Oakland, so they avoid using his real name.
You, Eddie Felson. Who's he?
Just like Marty, it's easier to control your perception if you become someone new.
Buster's gonna get an award.
I mean,
After
back
proof-
in the day, bro, you could just fucking create a new name and just go to a new city and nobody knows who the fuck you are.
Proving to the barkeep that Buster has cash to burn,
No, he sold $17,000 worth of stuff last month.
Nowadays, you're gonna have fucking TikToks made about you every 5 minutes if you, like, you know.
the pool table naturally introduces itself.
Play a little pool, wait out the heat. It's gonna cost you money, it always does. Oh, come on.
As the rounds of JTS Brown keep flowing, a crowd starts to form around the table. Soon, the mark will present himself from these men when the action becomes irresistible. Until then, the two salesmen play out the con like a choreographed play. The bourbon makes Buster sloppy, and the onlookers fixate on the money flowing out of his pockets.
What's the kid in Hawk for so far?
About 60, 70 bucks.
Of course, the money funnels to the same car to be split, But the crowd needs to see each loss leading to real financial consequences. Eddie must act the loser. By a stroke of sheer, calculated luck, Buster makes a game-winning shot to end his losing streak.
I made it, boy. I finally made it. Come on, pay up, sucker.
From here, the betting game turns to replicating this one shot. Buster's opponent declares it impossible.
Wouldn't make that shot again in a million years.
But one more bet.
Bet you $20.
Shot, miss, and he's out.
I'm not gonna bet you anymore.
Buster is left begging for another attempt, desperate to win, like a fool who doesn't know when to give up.
Come on, Charlie, you're into me now. I got my money on the table. I don't want it.
To the bystanders, this seems like an olive branch. Maurer says that a confidence man prospers only because of the fundamental dishonesty of his victim. First, he inspires a firm belief in his own integrity. Second, he brings into play powerful and well-nigh irresistible forces to excite the cupidity of the mark. It would really be doing this drunken hotshot a favor to take his bet. And besides, he's rich, he's been a loser all night, and the risk is essentially non-existent. How could he win now? As the lust for large and easy profits is fanned into a hot flame, the mark puts all his scruples behind him. And
I'll try you.
the mark takes the bait. To no surprise, it's the barkeep, the one man who witnessed the show from the moment Eddie and Charlie walked through his door. He was the most convinced, the most compelled, and soon the most suckered.
No, I want him.
Eddie raises the bet to $105,
That's 1 week's commission.
and the barkeep is put on the scent.
I'll take it out of the till.
Got him! Got him! Tripled that bitch.
$10 in cash now sits on the table. And then, once again, step 8. Play him against a big store and fleece him. Rawson rightly chooses the climax of the hustle to cue the title sequence. Just as in Marty Supreme, we never see the shot go in, but we don't have to. Beginning the film in this way centers Eddie's life around the con. Hustling is his identity.
How can I lose?
And just like Marty, the man he pretends to be is scarcely different from his true self. Naturally, this creates an immersive hustle scene for the audience and keeps us questioning. But more importantly, when the persona persists off stage, you no longer see a slick pool savant. Instead, you see a man hollowed out by his pride and greed, drowning his sorrows in JTS Brown. A man without character. In the face-off against Minnesota Fats, the most famous and well-directed scene in the film, we watch Eddie break.
I'll break.
Not that kind of break. This kind. In the din of cigarette smoke, as the curtains block out the sun, Eddie is reduced to nothing.
Hey, Fats?
From being ahead $18,000 all the way down to $200, only Fats knows how to walk away.
Game's over, Eddie.
This game introduces the central conflict of the film, that regardless of skill, a winner has something that losers lack.
So what beat me?
Character.
In this context, character is referring to the foundation of a man.
You gotta build character. Oh man, character development like I was mentioning earlier.
Tested and tried, that constitutes his strength and being.
Minnesota Fat's got more character in one finger than you got in your old skinny body.
Eddie's life is built on vapid thrills that fuel his ego, fill his wallet, and nothing more.
10 grand. I'm gonna win 10 grand in one night.
Hustling isn't just a means to achieve a dream, as it is for Marty. It's the defining purpose of Eddie's life, the lens through which he lives, permeating beyond the green felt and into his relationships.
You're hustling me, Eddie. You've never stopped hustling me.
But the outcome is the same, sacrificing people for the sake of having the most.
Is he a winner?
Well, he owns things.
Is that what makes a winner?
You could have all the passion and talent in the world. You could be the best and know you're right.
Real great feeling when you're right and you know you're right. It's like all of a sudden I got oil in my arm.
But if that's where your life ends, you're not a winner. Through the heartbreaking portrayal of Eddie and Sarah's relationship, the pitfalls of Eddie's pride are put on display.
I love you.
You need the words?
Yes, I need them very much.
It's through Sarah that Eddie experiences a necessary and life-altering defeat, in a way far more extreme than Marty's defeat in Japan. Marty lost a dream. Eddie lost the only person that ever loved him.
I loved it, Bert. I traded her in on a pool game. Just win. Win, you said. Win. That's the important thing. If you don't know what winning is, Bert, you're a loser.
The film ends with Fats and Eddie's long-awaited rematch.
Came to play pool, Fats.
Eddie puts everything on the line.
Come on, $3,000. That's my bankroll, my life savings.
But this game has a new energy. Eddie has a fire in his heart that wasn't there before.
I mean, it's not enough that you...
That's the thing. When you lose something, when you give up something, it burns a fucking flame of passion.
Talent, you gotta have character too.
He's playing for something much bigger than a love for the game. Love for someone who showed him what it means to be a winner. Love that came too late.
Yeah, and I sure got character now. I picked it up in a hotel room in Louisville.
The Mark is thrown into an unreal world which very closely resembles real life. Like a spectator regarding the life groups in a museum of natural history, he cannot tell where the real scene merges into the background. Maurer was talking about the conditions the Mark finds himself in right as he's about to be swindled for all his worth. But this also demonstrates the key to a successful hustle in film. As an audience, we are the Mark. It's our attention and emotional investment that the filmmakers or the confidence men seek to capture. Just as much as a hustler, a filmmaker needs to be a master of human response, knowing when to cut, when to fade, where to place the camera, how to frame a character, when to layer music, and all the other intricacies of crafting a finished work that will draw the audience in. As Maurer says, confidence men are hardly criminals in the usual sense of the word, for they prosper through a superb knowledge of human nature. A good hustle scene entices you and sells you on a false premise of reality, but rather than leave you empty-handed when the film takes off the touch, you experience the thrill and excitement of winning big yourself. I'm
never understanding how pool. I'm so ass at pool, bro. I can't even lie to you, bro. I just don't understand how to fucking be good, bro.
Time Marty and Eddie return to their cars, cash in hand, after their flawless hustles. Well, almost flawless. The film has already told us everything we need to know about them, contained in a single scene. The hustle never was a performance. Two grifters on the cusp of greatness with the talent to match. In the rise to the top, they hit the ground, defeated. Only then, as the world slows down and the smoke clears, can their brokenness change them from the inside. The real loser is the person who can't lose, who never lost anything, a dream, a friend, a lover. Out of defeat comes character, and character is what makes a winner. Marty learned this lesson just in time to hold his son and cherish the woman he loves. But Eddie wasn't so lucky. He learned his lesson too late.
Fat man, you shoot a great game of pool. So do you, Fast Eddie.
If you enjoyed this video, you can check this one out.
Hey,
and also leave a like
video, I can't even lie. W video, bruh. W video, because look at the fact of the matter, man. The hustle is what truly runs the world, man. I genuinely can see how, you know, this war that we're seeing is basically the hustle, right? Like they're making the average population the mark, right? Look, chat. I will try to run through as much as I can tonight. And we'll see how it goes from there, okay? I wanted to avoid some of the war stuff, but we'll hit it, okay? We'll hit it tonight. Okay? Let's see what we can do.
Iran.
Okay?
In the south of it, there's one narrow stretch of water that quietly holds enormous power over the global economy. It's not a canal, it's not really one single major port.
Bro, a lot of people are like, bro, why don't they just build a canal right here and then they just get into... You know how fucking hard that shit is?
Just a thin gap between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. On the other side is an exclave of Oman, and then the United Arab Emirates. Through that gap flows one of the largest concentrations of energy transportation on Earth. Up to 20% of the world's oil supply and 10% of global trade. This is the Strait
That really doesn't sound like a lot. You know what I'm saying? It really just doesn't sound... 20% of all. What about the other 80%? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't sound 10% of all trade. Like, you still got 90. I don't know.
Hormuz, and Iran is no longer just threatening to close it. That possibility has now started to become a reality. So much so that specific organizations are even releasing their oil reserves to try and stabilize the market at a global level. Commercial shipping through the Strait.
It can't, bro. If they're going into their reserves, it can't just be 20%, bro. It's gotta be, bro. If you're going into your reserves, that means, like, if it's like 50%, you have to go into, like, imagine you make $5,000 a month. Your rent is $1,000, but you're spending $4,000 on drinks. You know, like it's gotta be more than 20%. 20% just does not sound enough for you to go in your reserves. You
already been severely disrupted. Several ships have been struck, damaged, or harassed. Traffic has collapsed, and insurers have pulled back coverage or raised costs massively. At the same time, there are strong indications that ships linked to countries seen as friendly to Tehran, especially China, are being treated differently, or at least are the focus of talks for safer passage. So this isn't yet a perfectly sealed blockade in the literal sense, but it's already a real disruption of one of the most important trade arteries on Earth. And the uncertainty now is not whether Iran could do this, it's how much further it's willing to go. Will the US cave?
I mean, they already put the fucking mines down. I think they're willing to go all the way. Bro, they killed the current leader's father, wife, and daughter. 3 of the most important people in his life are murked. That boy is taking the most lethal action that he can.
And push for a rapid settlement to stabilize the markets, like the US president has said that they are trying to do, or will it try to forcefully protect commercial traffic with military power, as he has also said he could do, even though the US Navy has reportedly told the shipping industry that full escort protection isn't feasible for now. This is Iran's secret weapon.
Because Iran got so many bombs and so many drones, they're gonna fucking rain down hellfire on that ass, bro.
Been becoming real, but it could also be a big mistake. During regular times, every single day massive oil tankers leave the Persian Gulf, carrying crude from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. All of that oil has exactly one way out to the open ocean and the rest of the world, the Strait of Hormuz. The passage itself is surprisingly narrow. At its tightest point, shipping lanes are only a few kilometers wide in each direction. Giant tankers, weighing hundreds of thousands of tons, have to funnel through the same narrow corridor, like cars going through a toll booth in the highway. They're sitting ducks for coastal missiles that have no problem hitting very slow-moving and gigantic targets. The northern side of that corridor is controlled by Iran. Roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through the waterway, and liquefied natural gas shipments from Qatar.
Bro, they're fucking shooting ducks in a barrel, bro. Like, this is not gonna be hard. Pow.
Or 2. That means that energy supplies from Europe, China, Japan especially, South Korea, and a lot of the developing world are tied directly to this choke point. If something blocks it, then global energy prices don't just rise, they explode. Japan in particular depends immensely on this, and news reports point to extreme worry in the country right now over the possibility that the situation there could get even worse. Mostly because oil markets are extremely sensitive to supply disruptions. It's said that the Japanese government was very upset at the Americans that they didn't warn them of the attack because this was a foreseeable consequence, and I don't know, I guess they wanted to prepare and maybe stockpile some fuel, and they didn't get to do it. At this point, tanker insurance are spiking their premiums. Shipping companies are rerouting their vessels into longer and more expensive routes, and some governments are panicking about their fuel reserves. But now, imagine something more serious, because what's happening already is bad, but it's not necessarily the final form of the crisis. Ships have been already attacked and damaged, traffic has been choked, and insurance costs have raised, but Iran still has room to escalate far beyond these selective attacks and general disruption. Mines could be placed in the water.
I thought they already placed some of the mines. I'm pretty sure they're already fucking laying down mines at this point. Like, you know, I don't know how old this video is. It seems to be a day old. But I'm pretty sure they have already laid down some mines.
Fast attack boats could start swarming tankers more aggressively, or just the perception that ships aren't safe could be enough to do it. They don't need to physically seal the strait shut to disrupt it. All they need to do is make it dangerous enough that no ships want to pass there. That's exactly the scenario that the world is worrying about. Now, this war didn't come as a surprise to Iran. They've spent decades preparing for this possibility.
I mean, bro, they've had fucking 30, 40 years to fucking prepare for this, bro. They're not fucking around no more.
In building a navy designed to fight the US fleet straight on, which they know they couldn't beat, Iran invested.
Bro, the problem is Trump is talking about we already won the war, bro. We already won the war. Then how the fuck are we still going? If we already won the war, that he was like talking about we've already sunk all their navy. How the fuck are we still here? How are we still in the war? Fucking a month in, like what's going on?
In asymmetric tactics, specifically tailored to the geography of the Persian Gulf. That's why when the US brags about sinking the Iranian capital ship, it doesn't mean that much in the big context of this conflict. What Iran has invested in are swarms of small, fast boats, coastal missile batteries hidden in mountains and tunnels, naval mines that can be deployed quickly by those same small vessels, drones and anti-ship missiles capable of targeting tanks.
What people have said is America just seems like the big bad motherfucker because they got big ships, they got big guns, but they're so expensive that none of that shit matters with a country like Iran that's been under super, super strict laws that they can't trade with everybody. They've been under trade restrictions. They've been under fucking tariffs. They've been under all kinds of issues. So they're poor. So they're going for like really guerrilla warfare.
Tankers or even warships. The idea is simple: make the Strait of Hormuz too dangerous to operate. Now, what's interesting here is that the strait hasn't just been a strategic choke point in the modern oil era. For thousands of years, whoever controlled the stretch of water controlled trade between some of the richest regions of the ancient world. To understand why Iran sees this strait as its leverage against the world, and why it kind of actually is, you have to go back thousands of years. The Persian Gulf has always been a trading corridor, linking Mesopotamia, Persia, India, East Africa, and then Europe. Ancient merchants sailed these waters carrying spices, textiles, pearls, and precious metals. Ports along the Gulf became wealthy intermediaries between the great civilizations of the Middle East, Europe, and the Indian Ocean. One of the most important of these trading hubs eventually gave its name to the strait itself, Hormuz. Originally, the city of Hormuz wasn't even located on the small island that now bears the name. The first Hormuz was a mainland port on the Iranian coast, flourishing through the medieval period as a key node in Indian Ocean trade networks. But repeated invasions from the Mongols in the 13th century forced the rulers to relocate their capital to this nearby island. That island, barren, rocky, and surrounded by very strong currents, turned out to be the perfect defensive fortress. From there, the kingdom of Hormuz controlled trade flowing between Persia, Arabia, and India. Ships traveling through the Gulf often have to stop there, paying taxes and duties that made Hormuz incredibly wealthy. By the 1400s, travelers described it as one of the richest ports in the world. Persian, Arab, Indian, and African merchants filled their markets. And then Europe arrived too. At the beginning of the 16th century, Portuguese explorers were expanding.
I mean, bro, if they were expecting this, why don't they start fucking shipping from the Red Sea? Like, I mean, this Saudi Arabia can just, travel right here and then start shipping here if they were that worried about it. I don't know. I don't know shit.
building a network of fortified trading posts that would allow them to dominate global maritime commerce. One of the most ambitious of these explorers was Afonso de Albuquerque. He immediately understood the strategic importance of Hormuz. Control the island, and you control the gateway between the Persian Gulf and the wider Indian Ocean. And this remains true up to today, except now you don't need to control the island, just the water. In 1515, Portuguese forces captured Hormuz and built a massive fortress overlooking the harbor. From there, they imposed their own taxes on ships passing through the strait, effectively turning the region into a Portuguese-controlled toll gate. There was nothing new to the strategy, they just did what the natives were doing before. And for more than a century, the Portuguese dominated this maritime crossroad. Their ships patrolled the waters, enforcing monopolies over trade routes that had once been controlled by the locals. They beat Ottoman fleets in incredibly outnumbered fights due to the superiority of their ships. But that dominance wouldn't last forever. By the early 1600s, the Safavid Empire in Persia was growing stronger.
Bro, humans have been fighting for fucking hundreds of years, thousands of years. Motherfucking nobody wants to get along, bro. That's the problem. Everybody likes fucking money, bro. Money is the root of all evil, as they say. They just gotta get to the bag.
Increasingly resentful of European control over its coastal waters. It sounds a little familiar, right? The Persian ruler, Shah Abbas I, formed an unlikely alliance with the English East India Company, which would go on to colonize all of India. But at this point, together, Persian forces and English ships attacked Hormuz in 1622, and the Portuguese fortress fell. The island returned to Persian control, and the center of trade gradually shifted to the nearby mainland port of Bandar Abbas, named after the same Persian ruler. And from that moment forward, the Strait of Hormuz became firmly tied to Iranian sovereignty. But the outside world never really stopped trying to influence what happened there. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the discovery of oil completely transformed the strategic importance of the region. What had once been a trade corridor for spices and textiles became the exit route for one of the new, most valuable commodities
Liquid
on Earth.
gold!
Foreign powers quickly moved to secure influence over Iran's energy resources. In 1908, British companies discovered massive oil reserves in the southwest. The British government soon acquired a controlling stake in the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, which you probably know today by its modern name, British Petroleum, BP. For decades, Britain effectively dominated Iran's oil industry, extracting enormous
Bro, these white folks be taking all the brown people shit.
wealth, while Iran itself received only a small share of the profits. This arrangement created deep resentment in Iran, so much so that in 1951 their Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh made a bold move. He nationalized the country's oil industry, seizing control of British-operated facilities. And for Britain, this was unacceptable. Losing Iranian oil threatened both its economy and geopolitical influence. The result was one of the most famous covert operations of the Cold War. In 1953, British intelligence and the CIA orchestrated a coup that removed the Prime Minister from power and restored the Shah of Iran to authority. Western companies regained influence over Iran.
Bro, a lot of the Western Iranians love this guy. I'm pretty sure he's the Shah that they love because he brought the Western rule, but the CIA put him in. So you motherfuckers trying to betray your own fucking people for the love of white folks. That's the crazy part. You want this Shah because he basically, let me reiterate, he basically brought in CIA control to your country and you sold out your own people. Shame on you!
Oil, and the country became closely aligned with the US for the next quarter century. As we know, that all changed in 1979 with the Iranian Revolution and the establishment of the Islamic Republic, turning the country into a very significant opponent to the US and most of the West. And once again, the Strait of Hormuz became central. A little later, during the Iran-Iraq War of the 80s, both sides attacked oil tankers traveling through the Persian Gulf in what became known as the Tanker War. Mines were laid in shipping lanes, missiles targeted commercial vessels, and just like now, insurance rates for tankers skyrocketed and new, more expensive routes were followed. At one point, the US even launched Operation
That's the problem, bro. These motherfuckers really wanted y'all brown folks to start fighting. These no melanin having fucking motherfuckers wanted you brown folks to start fighting.
Escorting oil tankers through the Gulf with warships to keep the shipping lanes open.
Damn, those big ass bullets, bro. Holy shit.
The lessons from that conflict were clear. Even limited disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz could rattle global energy markets. And today the stakes are far higher. The world consumes much more energy than it did in the 80s. Supply chains are deeply interconnected, and a sudden spike in oil prices would ripple through transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, and food distribution. Fuel costs rise, shipping costs rise, electricity prices rise, and suddenly your groceries are more expensive. Financial markets react almost instantly. That's why the Strait of Hormuz remains one of the most heavily monitored waterways on Earth, even up to today and even before this conflict. The US always maintains a constant naval presence in the region, and some Gulf states have invested billions in pipelines that bypass the strait, trying to reduce their dependence on it, but those alternative routes can only carry a fraction of the total oil exports leaving the region. Most of it still has to pass through Hormuz, which brings us back to the present. Iran knows exactly how important this choke point is, and over the past several decades, it has quietly built the capabilities needed to threaten it. Not necessarily to close it forever, but to make the world believe that it could. And now the threat is no longer theoretical. Iran has already shown that it's willing to attack or
Bro, I don't think Dubai is ever coming back to what it was, bro. After how Iran low-key whooped that ass and put belt to ass, nobody's fucking... Like, I see all these influencers talking about, oh my God, they're bombing us, oh my God. Like, you know? I don't think Dubai's coming back online like it was before.
Danger commercial shipping in the strait, while the broader traffic collapse shows how effective even partial disruption can be. And if China or other friendly destinations are getting safer treatment, that only reinforces the point. Tehran may not need a universal blockade. A selective one can still shake the entire world economy. So the question becomes, how far is Iran actually willing to push this? And are the United States willing?
I genuinely think they're not gonna give up. They said they're not wanting to meet anymore. It's eye for an eye is what they're talking about, bro.
To call their potential bluff. One possibility is that the current level of disruption is the weapon. By demonstrating that it can strike ships, freeze traffic, terrify insurers, and benefit some countries in detriment of others, Iran creates a powerful deterrent. Any attempt to continue the current large-scale military strikes against them could trigger further retaliation that destabilizes the entire global economy even more. That kind of leverage could be enough to make Washington and its allies hesitate. But there's another possibility. If tensions escalate too far, Iran might go further than what it's already doing. It could attempt to block the strait more completely, even if temporarily, hoping that the resulting economic chaos forces that rapid diplomatic settlement, especially if they're in a nothing-to-lose scenario. And that escalation could have several forms, like we mentioned, maybe mining the shipping lanes, which could have very long-term impact, firing more anti-ship missiles from the coastline, or using those fast attack crafts to harass or even overwhelm and overtake the tankers. The US has long declared that keeping the strait open is a core strategic priority, and both them and some allied naval forces would likely move quickly to clear mines, suppress the batteries, and protect whatever commercial shipping they still can. In other words, the strait could turn into the center of a direct military confrontation. And even if shipping lanes were eventually reopened, the economic damage might already be done. I mean, everybody's noticed how fuel prices have increased in the past
week.
Bro,
they went from like 250, like 230 to like 315 is the lowest I've seen in the last couple of weeks. Now it's like fucking nearly $4. It's like 255, 260 some places, bro.
And they might get worse. Oil prices.
Oh, I'm sorry, 360 some places. My bad. 360. My fault, OG. I was paying 30 something, $33 to $30 on my Toyota Camry. Now I'm paying $45, bro. $12 increase in 2 weeks.
Dramatically
Yo, if this keeps going up, I am gonna be losing it.
spike even more in a matter of days. Some experts say that Iran's goal is to make the situation so dire that the price of the oil barrel reaches $200. And
it's at $80 right now. Chat, it's at $80 as of March. If it reaches $200, that would cause American economy to implode. Implode.
in that case, financial markets could panic and inflation could surge across the globe. In the worst case scenario, the shock could trigger a global financial crisis. The situation is complicated regardless of what happens, so I guess we just have to wait and see what
we
Iran
shall fuck
decides
around
to do.
and find out, as they say. Let's fuck around and find out. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. It's seeming to get a little weird. But let's go ahead and look at this other video, because
the biggest risk to the United States economy was never the AI bubble. It was never China.
Whoa. Okay, it is the AI bubble. Hold on, Chad. Hold on. It is the AI bubble just because of the fact that you gotta understand the Arabs, the motherfuckers over in the Middle East are pumping the money into our stock market. They're the main source. They're the main source of our stock market flying, other than, of course, our federal government pumping them fake dollars in there. So the fucking Arabs, the Middle Eastern countries, are buying up all the fucking big AI companies' stocks. So if all of a sudden, if they're getting bombed, they can't depend on America to protect them, they're going to take out all their money. They're going to go ahead and start deflating that bubble. As soon as that bubble pops, the AI bubble is holding up the whole economy. A lot of the big hedge funds are holding a lot of fucking big fucking hedges in the AI sector. If that pops, that's going to pop a lot of these hedge funds. And when the hedge fund starts going down, all of your stocks, all of your fucking 401ks, it's about to get shawshy. So that's why this matters, because if Europe and Saudi Arabia starts deciding, hey, we don't want to fuck around in this AI bubble, we need that money in our country, they start pulling that shit out, it's gonna collapse the economy. And right now, I feel like we're in too deep. If they're not able to pull out now, which I don't think they're able to, right? I think America has already dove too far deep. You already dove head in, and Iran now is like, hey, now we can't let shit slide. Imagine a motherfucker slap your bitch, right? He slap your bitch. But if he slap your side bitch, like we slapped, Iran's side bitch, like when we killed the fucking general, the army general back in the, day, that was like Iran's side bitch. Like they were like, well, fuck all that. We don't care about him. But when you smack the main bitch, it's over. You can't take disrespect like that, because you disrespecting me. If you smacking my main bitch for being out of line, you disrespecting me. So at the end of the day, that's what we did when we killed the Ayatollah. We smacked up the main shawty of Iran. We smacked up the main bitch. That's hey, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, bro. $1.50. And chat, it seems like we smacked up the main bitch of Iran, and that's the thing. I told y'all that couple streams ago, I was talking about if Iran doesn't defend itself right now, hey, they pussy. I told y'all, if they cannot defend themselves right now, America deserves to take it all over. Fucking take the whole fucking globe. Fuck every other country. America's big dog. Let's go ahead and get them packed up and packed off. If Iran couldn't defend itself this time around, which, hey, look, they're slinging them nuts around. They slinging them hairy ass balls around. Look, I said it originally. If they weren't going to defend this time, hey, look, hey, the whole world's in danger. But look, I will be 100% honest. I'm going to keep it a fucking bean with you. They let their dick hang, bro. They slammed their slimy little meat on America's forehead. I'm not saying America's losing right now because it doesn't seem like it. Otherwise, we'd be already boots on the ground if we were completely down bad. And it's seeming like they're talking about the draft. If they actually went boots on the ground, oh, you already know we're losing. Like if you see boots on the ground, we're not in a good spot. We're not in a good spot. Because bro, America originally planned for, you know, the country to start giving up after the belt and ass was applied. As soon as the belt to ass was applied, America was like, nah, bro, it's all good, shawty. They thought they were going to do what Venezuela did, turn around and start taking it. No lube. But I was under the impression, that's why I was mentioning, I'm like, bro, if Iran takes it this time, if Iran doesn't do anything, well, it's over with. It's over with. If they fuck around and just say, hey, we're good, they pussy. But they didn't say none of that. They said, it's all good. We finna beef. It's all schmokes from here. They said, let's go. It's all schmokes. Catch me outside. How about that? Iran literally hit the catch me outside. How about that? Like.
And it was never the orange man in the Oval Office. It's something much more boring, and it's something you've likely never heard about, unless you've gone deep down the finance rabbit hole. And that's exactly why nobody's paying attention to it. Because if you've been wondering why mortgage rates refuse to fall, why stocks randomly freak out every few months, and why the Federal Reserve can talk about cutting rates but financial conditions still feel tight, the answer
because they're fucking creating the fucking dollar, right? They can print as much dollars as they want. They can literally, bro, they're drowning the dollar value. They're genuinely creating so much, like, bro, they're creating so many dollars in demand to keep the economy afloat that it's gonna collapse a dollar because bro, I want to do a stream. I'm probably gonna watch one after this. Is like, how does like the currency work? Because the issue is the dollar has no value. It's the belief that Americans have that it has a value, that if we don't pay our taxes, these motherfuckers will be at our door. It's that belief that keeps us paying the taxes. But if tomorrow, like, none of our dollars have any value, which if they keep printing a new dollar every day, well, it could obviously be an issue. What are we doing here?
Doesn't start in Washington. It starts in Tokyo, and more specifically, in the most boring asset on Earth, Japanese government bonds. Because the country best known for attracting American weebs has also been the duct tape quietly holding the global financial system together for the past 30 years, and that duct tape is starting to peel. But to understand why Japan is so important, you first have to rewind to the early 90s. Because 30 years ago, in 1992, Japan's asset bubble burst, real estate collapsed, equities collapsed, and Japan entered what became known as the Lost Decades. It was a 3-decade-long period of being financially f***ed. There was no real growth, no inflation, and no wage expansion. It was like the economy hit pause, and nobody could find the remote. So the Bank of Japan did what central banks do when they're out of options. They cut rates to zero, and then they cut rates below zero. And then, when that wasn't enough, they introduced something called yield curve control, which sounds like a Marvel villain, but actually just means, we're going to cap long-term bond yields, whether the market likes it or not. Basically, the Japanese government superglued interest rates to the floor, so for decades, Japanese government bonds yielded pretty much nothing, and that created massive problems for Japanese investors. Because imagine you're a Japanese life insurer, pension fund, or even a bank. You have a $1 billion investment portfolio, and your domestic government bonds are paying you 0%. This pretty much leaves you with two choices. 1, accept no return on your cash, or 2, go shopping overseas. And they chose option 2. So Japan entered a multi-decade-long global shopping spree that led them to become the largest foreign holder of U.S. treasuries, one of the largest buyers of U.S. mortgage-backed securities.
Bro, they started buying from the motherfuckers that bombed them. They said, hey, we're going to finance y'all. Don't worry about it. Come on
securities
now.
and the world's largest net creditor nation, which is just the formal way of saying Japan became the world's ATM. And it's not because Japan just loves sending capital to America, but it's because the math made sense. And here's how it worked. Meet Bob. Bob wants to start making some money through investing. So Bob goes to the Japanese markets and borrows money in yen at near zero interest rates. Then Bob converts that yen into dollars and buys US treasuries that yield 4%. And after hedging costs and fees, he pockets the spread. And that's what became known as the yen carry trade. Investors would borrow in yen at near zero interest rates and then invest in foreign assets that yielded higher returns. And when investors' borrowing costs are near zero, they don't just buy treasuries. They buy tech stocks, they buy real estate, and they buy into emerging markets. Basically, if it's got a pulse and it yields more than 0%, they'll buy it. And that's why for years, this trade became one of the largest sources of global liquidity. At its peak, the yen carry trade was estimated by some banks to be in the trillions. It was like the global markets were running on Japanese Wi-Fi. But the problem was that the entire trade relied on one assumption that held everything together, that Japanese yields would stay near zero forever. But in 2024, that assumption broke when the Bank of Japan ended its yield curve control policy, and Japan raised interest rates for the first time in 17 years, and then they raised them again. And immediately following that second rate hike decision, the S&P 500 dropped 6%, and Japan's index, the Nikkei 225, plummeted over 12% in a single day, marking its worst drop since 1987. It was a clear signal that markets were officially spooked. Because when Japanese yields rise, two things happen. 1, borrowing in yen becomes more expensive. And 2, hedging currency risk becomes more expensive too. And suddenly, the free money trade isn't so free anymore. And that 4% US Treasury Bob was looking at doesn't look so good anymore. And this was the beginning of the end for the yen carry trade. Because now the math had flipped, and the trade was no longer a no-brainer. And when the math flips, the capital flows flip too. And the money that flowed out of Japan for decades was starting to return home. And this is what's called repatriation, and it's one of the biggest threats in global markets today. Because investors are starting to realize the uncomfortable truth. The cheapest source of global liquidity for the past 30 years is no longer cheap. But here's why it actually matters. Because for decades, Japan wasn't just some random buyer of US debt. They were one of the most consistent, price-insensitive buyers.
They was balling out on them weeaboo bucks.
Of long-term treasuries. And the yields on those long-term treasuries? Well, they aren't set by Jerome Powell. The Federal Reserve controls short-term rates. But the 10-year, 20-year, and 30-year? Well, those yields are largely determined by supply and demand. And the problem is, everyone's staring at the wrong lever. And here's legendary investor and founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Ray Dalio, to explain it.
Watch the bond market. The bond market is the basis, it's the backbone of all markets. It is the risk-free, meaning default-free, probably default-free, interest rate that determines what all asset returns are going to be. And when there is a breakdown of the supply-demand picture for the bond market, you see a certain type of market action. You see long rates rising relative to short rates. You see, because there's a movement out of that bond market because there's a supply and demand imbalance. When that happens, that raises interest rates, and it puts the Federal Reserve and other central banks in a bind.
So while everyone is hyperanalyzing Jerome Powell's press conferences like it's a new GTA 6 trailer, they're looking at the wrong end of the yield curve. Because while the Fed has some indirect influence on long-term rates, what they really control is short-term rates, the overnight rate. But the long end of the yield curve is driven more by supply and demand. And when you add in the fact that the United States is running trillion-dollar deficits annually, even a slight reduction in demand matters. Because the Treasury has to issue massive amounts of new debt every year just to keep the lights on in the economy. And as this debt issuance keeps growing, someone has to absorb it. And for the last few decades, Japan was a key part of that absorption machine. But before I explain why if Japan backs out, we are totally f***ed, a quick pause, because this video is sponsored by any other now based on into a custom claw. Gamma allows you to go from brainstorm can connect to your GitHub. No, if you're interested in checking out Gamma, you can head to gamma.app. Now back to how Japan might f*** our economy. Because if one of the largest historical buyers of United States Treasuries stops buying, then yields have to rise to attract new buyers. And that's how supply and demand shape long-term bond yields. But that's also how you can get a situation where the Fed cuts the federal funds rate, short-term yields fall, but long-term yields stay elevated, and that's how you get what's called a steepening yield curve. And if this happens and long-term rates stop cooperating, then it stops being just a bond market story, and then becomes an everything story. Because when analysts build models to value stocks, they discount cash flows using long-term yields as a baseline. And when long-term yields remain elevated, the present value of future cash flows in these models decreases, which means valuations compress and stocks trade at lower multiples. So even if earnings are fine, the price investors are willing to pay for those earnings changes. And that's why markets can suddenly feel unstable, even when the headlines look calm. But it doesn't just stop at the stock market, because the 10-year Treasury yield isn't just some nerdy number on Bloomberg. It sets the price of money and is the foundation of nearly every asset valuation. And mortgage rates are another example of this, because, like stock valuations, mortgage rates are largely...
Bro, as they say, this is gonna be the Great Depression of our century, bro. The Great Depression of 1929 was the worst stock market crash they've ever seen, until obviously 2008, which was pretty bad, but it was nowhere near the 1929, right? This is supposed to be 10 times worse. So let's get ready to rumble
to long-term Treasury yields. So if the 10-year yield doesn't meaningfully fall, mortgage rates don't magically drift back to 3%. So the Fed can cut the federal funds rate all they want, but if global demand for treasuries weakens, then the long end of the yield curve stays pinned. And when that happens, mortgage rates stay high, housing affordability stays strained, refinancing activity stays muted, and home transactions slow. But it's not just mortgage rates and equity valuations, because if you zoom out even further to corporate credit, it's the same story. If you remember back when capital was cheap in 2020 and 2021, when rates were suppressed, companies were issuing debt like it was Black Friday, and interest rates were 90% off. And when companies have access to cheap financing, we see increased deal flow, higher valuations, and more activity. And that's...
Everything just seems so inflated. Like, this video is trying to get to you. Credit is important, like he's about to say. Everything seems so inflated. Every stock, every fucking stunk is inflated.
Because credit is the bloodstream of the corporate world. But if borrowing costs stay elevated, we see the odds, and more brain cells than doom scrolling allows for. Instead, people want inflation, they want AI, and they want whatever Nvidia did last week. They want the topics that are visible, loud, and create headlines. So instead, the narratives become dramatically oversimplified to, if the Fed cuts rates, financial conditions will ease. And that's not necessarily true, and that's the lie we're being sold. That one rate cut fixes everything, that liquidity is automatic, and that someone, somewhere, will always show up to buy our debt. But what if they don't? And what if the largest foreign holder of US Treasuries decides to take a step back? Well, then you see global liquidity tighten. And liquidity is the oxygen in markets. And when it tightens, well, that's the cost of money changing everywhere. And like I covered, it affects everything, from stock valuations to mortgage rates to corporate credit. And that's why I made this channel, because I want to shine a light on the issues that actually matter, the issues that traditional financial media won't touch because they don't get clicks. So if you're interested in knowing about what's actually happening in financial markets, hit subscribe and turn notifications on, because I'll be covering the stuff that traditional financial media won't. Because the real threats in markets aren't the loud ones. Those are usually priced in. The real threats are the ones hiding in plain sight.
Oh, that was danky. Dankalicious. Look, chat. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, bro. It's seeming more and more a lot of this shit is getting a little tough. A lot of this shit is about to be a little tough. It's seeming like we're about to go through some crazy fucking shenanigans. I don't know though. Like, I don't want to scare y'all. I don't want to make y'all feel like, you know, the end is near, because some people really get to that level of, you know, propaganda, but I feel like a lot of this shit seems to be like scary as fuck, bro. A lot of this shit is like seeming like, yo, how the fuck did we get here? How did our government not see this coming? How the fuck are these motherfuckers just fucking sitting back, saving up the guap and not really paying attention to the fucking average person? But then you think about the fact that they have nothing in common with us. No matter what happens, they have their bunkers, they have their facilities, they are safe and sound, whereas the average person will be fighting for food and will be fighting for stability. And it really comes down to it, chat. Who are you gonna have in your corner when the fucking world goes to shit? We should have seen it during COVID. During COVID. We should have seen these motherfuckers gave zero fucks about you, or your family, or your grandma or grandpa. They gave zero fucks about you, told you to get this $1,200 check and shut the fuck up. And that's crazy. That's the crazy part. Because they're gonna ask you to enlist. Just know that. They're gonna ask you to enlist. Are you gonna enlist? Are you gonna go to war for these motherfuckers? Because these motherfuckers are not gonna send you no check. They're gonna send you no help when you getting your cheeks clapped overseas. They're gonna do exactly what they did to the fucking veterans when they came back from Iraq. And I don't know if you want that, chat. I don't know if any of y'all want that. I'm starting to think y'all don't want that. I don't think y'all want that. Do y'all want that? I don't know. I don't know. If you do, let me know. Let me know. If you want that, hey. The other day, I'm not gonna lie, I fucking had a bitch acting up. I had a bitch acting up, and I was like, you know, we need to go to war. Fuck this hoe. We need to fucking start getting this fucking shit on the road. I don't know, chat. I hope y'all having a good time. I think my stream went down for a little bit. I just saw it come back up. Look. The world is in a weird place right now. The weirdest, actually. So I want you to get you a good place in life where you can kick back, sit back, slick your hair back and take a sip. Because realistically, getting a cold one can change everything. Getting a cold one genuinely can change everything. I truly feel that way. There's a lot going on in this world, and truly, you can't do much about it. There's a lot of bullshit going on. There's a lot of fucking fuckery. They're lying to you. They're feeding you absolute bullshit so you enlist. And I can't lie to you about that. They're absolute feeding you horseshit by the fucking dozen. They're feeding you horseshit by the dozen, so if you eat it, that's on you. But there's no reality no more. We're living in the Matrix. This is the absolute Matrix to the fucking core. It's up to you to take the red pill or stay in there. And we're not talking about the red pill as in, you know, taking the fucking Andrew Tate pill, because that motherfucker is one of those dudes that hits you, hey, I'd rather just eat the steak because at least it tastes real. Fuck that guy now. He's on some weird shit. I think it's crazier than that. I think it's getting realer than that. There's no, oh, you gotta get 10 bitches and then 50 side bitches. Like, no, bro, fuck that. It's not about the bitches. It's not about none of that. It's about family. Like, I started the whole fucking monologue at the beginning about Fast and Furious, right? At the end of the day, it's about family. It's about keeping your lineage going. That's, at the end of the day, deep down in your human DNA, your lineage, keeping your fucking DNA moving is exactly why you're here. That is the premise. That is the basis of life, is keeping your DNA moving along. And these motherfuckers are making it hard. They're fucking ready to nuke the fucking world. They're ready to start this war and end it over some bullshit. They talk about, oh, this is nothing about religion. This is not anything to do with religion. This is not a religious war. What? That couldn't be it, bro. What are you talking about? It's seeming more and more that they're making this exactly about what they tell you it's not about. They're trying to make a prophecy come true. Prophecy of the Antichrist could come true so they can fucking take over the world. At the end of the day, this is all GTA RP. I'm a fucking comedian. This is all in my opinion because we are playing GTA RP, Xbox 360, HDMI cable. We're having fun. I'm just trying to unplug the HDMI cable real quick. That's all. We're in the 360 era. Let's go to the VCR. Some of you can read in between the lines and some of you can't. You're illiterate. Might have ADHD even. Get your Adderall. Get some help. But it's about to be a difficult time. That's all I can say. Genuinely. The way the world is moving currently, time does not seem to be getting any better. The world seemed to be getting harder and harder because of the fact that, bro, a lot of people would rather choose the easy way than defend and stand their ground. A lot of people are having a hard time in life right now. And that could be on purpose. Because, listen, I would be lying to you if I said that motherfuckers are not trying to hinder your fucking success. I would be lying to you if I said that motherfuckers are not trying to be on the bad side of society. That's the truth. There are people that think their way, their methods, and their ways of running the world is the correct way, and that truly, I don't understand it. I don't feel it. I don't vibe with it. Hold on. Let's see. I haven't seen his videos in forever, actually.
So thanks to the war in Iran, it looks like the United States economy and the investment markets are on the verge of deleveraging. If you have a 401k, this might be really important. There's something happening right now which involves the companies that are maybe managing your retirement money. It's called private credit markets.
What private credit is, just in its simplest form, is private loans to privately owned companies, privately owned real estate, and privately owned infrastructure.
You see, when most people need a loan, they go to the bank. Well, banks are regulated. There's rules about how much risk they can take. But over the last 20 years or so, there's sort of been what economists call a shadow version of the banking system. They're called private credit markets. Companies like Blackstone, Apollo, and Blue Owl that started lending money to companies. Well, hold on, where do they get the money from? They got it from pension funds, insurance companies, and everyday retirement investors with 401ks. And with that money, they then lent it out at higher interest rates with almost no oversight and very little transparency.
Well, sticking with financials, private credit exposed names also with big losses. BlackRock and Jefferies seeing the biggest drops. BlackRock falling after it limited redemptions in a private credit fund due to a surge in outflows. So how concerned should investors be about the credit market?
Now, this private credit market has grown from basically nothing to $3 trillion in about 10 years. And because the returns looked really good during the era of cheap money and low interest rates, a lot of money piled into these funds, including the kinds of funds that could sit inside pension systems and parts of retirement portfolios.
JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon issued
Do
a
I
warning
need to cash out my 401k? What?
on the earnings call Tuesday. He said, quote, "I probably shouldn't say this, but when you see one cockroach, there are probably more."
Now there's a big problem because these aren't like bank accounts where you can withdraw the money whenever you want. These loans are locked up in long-term illiquid contracts. So for example, when investors get nervous and want their money out, like they're trying to do right now, the funds can't just sell everything just to pay someone really fast. For example, Blackstone, the world's biggest alternative asset manager, just had a record amount of withdrawals from its $82 billion credit fund. Redemption requests were so high that Blackstone had to use its own money, and it's
Hey, yo, we're about to have a run on the bank, chat. Woohoo! We're about to see. We're about to see crisis at peak. Ideal. That's what I like to
so
see.
an employee's personal money just to cover the gap. There's a company called Blue Owl, which completely stopped redemptions on one of its retail funds. BlackRock was starting to limit withdrawals as well. Basically, it means investors are asking for their money back and they're told, sorry, you can't have it all at once. And here's what's happened to the stocks of some of these companies. Blue Owl, KKR, Blackstone, Ares, Apollo, Carlyle. These are some of the biggest financial institutions on earth, and their stock prices are kind of collapsing. Now, all of this is sort of just one crack in the system. There's also the price of oil, which, thanks to the war in Iran, has been exploding.
For one, you've disrupted global supply chains. This is not just a disruption of oil. It's gas, it's fertilizers, it's metals, it's petrochemicals, the list goes on and on.
And throughout history, exploding oil prices have almost always come before a major recession. There's also the $38 trillion spending problem. The government's running a $2 trillion deficit every single year, and they're projecting that if nothing changes, and nothing is changing, the national debt will get to $58 trillion within the next 10 years.
Hey, yo, what? What is that number? That's 4 commas? That's 4 commas? Fuck at the commas. Fuck at the commas. That's 4 commas we talk. What?
The jobs market is also starting to significantly slow down, with 92,000 jobs lost in February, and there's been huge downward revisions on past reports.
The U.S. lost 92,000 jobs in February. Some economists had been predicting a gain of 60,000 jobs. The unemployment rate rose slightly to 4.4%.
So maybe everything is fine. Markets might be up today, maybe they're down. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but so far, the U.S. economy is starting to show cracks in a lot of places. And today I want to show you some of those places and explain what it could mean for your investments. And I'll share with you a really interesting theory about what the U.S. government might do to fix all of it. So with that said, let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the economy. Now, I just want to say that this video is not trying to predict a recession or a market crash.
I don't even know if it's going to be a recession. I genuinely think it may be a straight-on depression, bro.
Instead, I want to show you some really interesting pieces of evidence that seems like we're going in the wrong direction, which eventually could lead us into a recession and maybe a market correction. So let me start with the first piece of evidence, which is sort of like the foundation for understanding everything in this video. The reason why the system is so sensitive is because the whole debt-based system that we live in runs on this idea of leverage. Leverage just means most people have borrowed money to live the life they live. And the reason
that's like 90% of America. Let's just be 100%.
This is really important is because it only takes one domino to start a chain reaction. And the best example of this was 2008. I remember living through it, and it felt like everyone was losing their house. And a lot of people did, but what really blew my mind is I learned that out of all the mortgage loans in the United States, it was less than 5% that actually went bad. Wait, what? Well, it felt like the whole country was defaulting, but it wasn't. It was just a small piece of a niche corner of the housing market, mostly subprime loans, which were themselves only about 13% of all mortgages, of which only about 25% went bad. So in total, just 4.5% triggered the collapse. That was enough to collapse the whole global financial system. That's the domino effect. Now, I'm not comparing today to 2008 subprime loans. I'm just giving you an example of how little it takes to deleverage an economy that is so connected and so leveraged. The worry right now is not subprime loans. The worry right now is what oil prices might do to markets and what AI and technology might do to jobs. Now, I want to be clear. We're not at the point where robots are about to take everybody's jobs just yet. But what most people don't understand is that it doesn't have to be everybody's jobs. It just has to be enough jobs, which according to Luke Froman is an unemployment rate of between 6 to 8%. Now, we're not there yet, but if that happens and enough jobs are displaced, that could start that chain reaction of deleveraging. And here's an example. Let's say you bought a house for $500,000 and you put $50,000 down. You borrowed the other $450,000, which means you are leveraged 10 to 1. But if your house drops in value by just 10%, that wipes out 100% of your equity. That's what leverage does. It amplifies when it's working, but it also does the same in reverse. Now zoom out and apply all of that to the whole economy, and here's what it looks like. The homeowner is leveraged, right? They have mortgages. Most people in America do. But it's not just homeowners, it's also the banks that gave you the mortgage that is leveraged, because even the banks borrow money to lend it to us. The private credit fund that's holding the packages of those loans is also leveraged. The insurance company that invested in that private...
Bro, everybody's leverage, brother. Everybody's playing with credit. Ooh, it might be a little spicy.
Private credit fund is leveraged. And the government that's sitting above all of this is the most leveraged one of all, to $38 trillion. So every layer of the US debt-based system is borrowed against the layer below it, kind of like a tower of playing cards. It might only take just a couple of industries and jobs to be displaced, which kicks off that chain reaction. Okay, but who am I talking about? Who's going to get displaced? Well, that would be the white-collar jobs. Here's an interesting chart that was floating around online about which jobs are susceptible to AI. Jobs in office administration, business and finance, computers and math, and education. Now, I actually think this chart was created using AI, so it's not 100% factual. But it looks like we're starting to see this even in the real economic data as well. We're seeing huge declines in finance and insurance jobs, in the information sector, in the professional and business services. And all this leads to what? Tighter lending, falling asset prices, volatility in the market, and uncertainty, because we just don't know what's going to happen. Now here's evidence number 2 of things sort of not going in the right direction. But first, a quick side note before we keep going, because this fits really well into everything we're talking about. Because when leverage is coming out of the system, the smartest thing to do is usually not something dramatic. Instead, it's just lowering unnecessary exposure. Now, most people already cover the basics like password managers and VPNs, but there's a big gap most people don't think of this. And that's looking at secular recession, aka happened before a recession, which are all the gray vertical bars. Now, I love the long-term trend line reference. Every major recession, and that indicator has been an increase to the price of oil. Here's a chart that you can see for reference. The green line tracks the price of oil, which shows up anytime the price goes up above the long-term trend line. It then has preceded, aka happened before a recession, which are all the gray vertical bars. Now this chart shows $104, but today that threshold is probably closer to maybe $70 to $75. Certainly above $100, it gets worse and worse. Right? That's the sweet spot for the US, is between $70 to $75. If it goes above that really quickly, then that's bad news. So for example, 1973 oil embargo, prices quadrupled, recession followed. 1979 Iranian Revolution, oil prices doubled, recession followed. 1990 Gulf War, oil spiked, recession followed. 2000 oil doubled, recession followed. 2007 oil went from $60 to $147 a barrel. The worst recession since the Great Depression followed. Every single time. And right now, thanks to the war in Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil goes through, oil prices are going up again. Now Trump says we could use the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the SPR, which is normally used as a buffer in times like this. But it's already been used up, which means the US economy is much more sensitive to oil prices right now. Now, if you're wondering, well, hold on, why is oil a useful thing to use as a recession indicator? It's useful because
we're about to be
it's what economists call an input cost for basically everything. Food, manufacturing, shipping, transportation. When oil goes up, the cost of making and moving stuff goes up as well. And when that happens, businesses get squeezed. So what do they have to do? They have to cut costs, they cut people, right? But what makes this time particularly dangerous compared to every other time is this chart. It shows that when oil went up and there was a recession, the Federal Reserve had room to fight back. They had room to cut interest rates. But right now, the Fed is kind of trapped. What does that mean? So the blue line is the Fed's balance sheet. Every time it goes up, that's the Fed printing money, doing QE. Now look at...
That's what I'm saying. If they keep printing, let's go ahead and say goodbye. If they keep printing money, bro, this is going to be a big problem for the value of the dollar. I'm going to, fuck it, bro. I'm going to play a video after this.
The red line, that's oil prices. Notice how every single time the Fed fired up the money printer, oil was cheap or falling. Oil collapsing gave the Fed room. They could print without triggering inflation because energy costs were low. Right now, though, oil is going up. It's extremely volatile, which means the Fed has less cover to do that. If they print money now, oil makes inflation worse. Now, if this is confusing, think of this as a game of chess. This is a Benjamin Cowan analogy. The Federal Reserve has to defend two things. Right? The Fed calls it their dual mandate. Job one, defend inflation, keep it low. Job two, keep unemployment low. So defend jobs and defend the price of things. Normally, when a recession happens and people lose jobs, the Fed cuts interest rates, so then cheap money flows into the economy, businesses can borrow, they can hire again, and unemployment can stay low. So if check, defend with lowering rates. But right now, inflation is somewhat elevated according to the Fed, and oil is extremely volatile right now. It went up over $100 a barrel, and then Trump said the war's over, right? So it went back down to the 80s. If the war lasts longer than expected, it could easily go over.
Let's be real. Let's be Israel. Let's be Israel. It's about to last at least a year. If I'm keeping it a buck with you, bro, if I'm keeping it $100 with you, bro, like my tummy full, bro, if I'm keeping it a buck, it's about to be a fucking year-long war.
For $100 again. It's trending that way right now, which means if the Fed cuts rates to fight a potential recession, inflation could come back, thanks to oil going up. So unemployment and inflation, the Fed can only fight one at a time. If not, that's checkmate, aka recession. And we're not there yet, but we'll see what happens to oil prices, which right now is tied to the fate of the war in Iran, which we're told is going to last a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, but not more, which personally, I don't believe.
I'm confident that our troops will be successful, and I think it'll go relatively quickly.
It could last, 6 days, 6 weeks. I doubt 6 months.
You can say 4 weeks, but it could be 6, it could be 8, it could be 3.
We expect to last about 4 to 6 weeks.
Right from the beginning. We projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that.
This brings me to evidence number 3, which is not that they can't print, it's that printing now comes with much worse consequences than any other time in history. Now, I'm sure you've heard it a million times by now, but I want to put into perspective just how bad our spending problem is. Every year, the government takes in about $5.2 trillion in tax revenue. That's income taxes, corporate taxes, payroll taxes, all the taxes we all hate paying, right? $5.2 trillion is what the government makes. And then it spends $7 trillion. So before we even talk about paying down the debt, the government's already spending almost $2 trillion more than it makes every single year. That is called the deficit. And it's that gap that gets added to the debt. But let's take a look at where that $5.2 trillion actually goes, right? Where does that money go? So roughly 70% of every dollar the government collects goes straight to what's called entitlements. What's that? That is Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That is money owed to baby boomers who paid into the system their whole lives and are now collecting. And you can't just cut that, because the moment you do, those people stop spending. The economy contracts, and tax revenues will fall even more. In the end, you'll actually end up with a bigger deficit. So 70% of that money has to be paid to them. Then there's the interest on that debt. That's already eating another 30 cents of every year. The government takes in
It's not looking good, chat. It's not looking good. It's getting a little spicy in here.
about $5.2 trillion in tax revenue. That's income more than it makes every single year. Air that government collects goes straight to what's called entitlements. Their whole lives and are now collecting will fall even more. In the end, you'll actually end up with a bigger deficit. So 70% of that money has to be paid to them. Then there's the interest on that debt. That's already eating another 30 cents of every dollar that comes in. That number is growing faster and faster, though, because as old debt gets refinanced at higher interest rates, the cost keeps going up. In fact, the Congressional Budget Office thinks that just the interest payments will be roughly $2.1 trillion by 2036. So we have entitlements and interest payments. Hold on, we're not done. There's also defense, which is another 20%. Can't cut that. And those three things alone, 70 plus 30 plus 20, that is 120% spent before the government funds anything most people can actually benefit from, like roads and schools and national parks, right? Kind of crazy to think about. Everything else the government does is funded completely on borrowed money every single year. And just the interest on the debt plus entitlements is already 100% of total federal receipts. So the money we pay to seniors and the interest on that debt, those two items alone are almost equal to everything the government makes in taxes. Which also means if tax revenues fall even a little, maybe because of a recession triggered by rising oil prices thanks to the war, or because AI, right, the white collar workers who pay most of the income taxes get displaced, the government literally would not be able to cover its basic obligations without printing more money. And this is before anything potentially gets worse, which it could. That private credit market we talked about, that's a $3 trillion system. A huge chunk of the American economy, like small businesses and real estate developers and companies, they've been running on loans from those private credit funds like Blackstone and Apollo and Blue Owl. And those loans are coming due at a time when interest rates are high and investors want their money back, which they're not getting. And when that credit dries up, businesses can't refinance, so they start cutting costs, they start laying people off, consumer spending drops, tax revenues fall, and when that happens, the whole system gets really stressed. Okay, so
Bro,
then
you
the ultimate
scaring me right now. Why are we talking? We're about to fucking go to depression. We're about to go to psych. We're ready for it. Get your money up. Get your money up, not your funny up.
question is, what is the solution? What can the government do to get us out of this mess? And there is some good news. Maybe someday we'll get negative interest rates, right? Force liquidity and force the banks to lend money. Maybe some version of quantitative easing again. But here's what I think is the most interesting theory that I came across. This might happen. The theory goes like this.
If you revalue gold enough to basically recollateralize or effectively buy down your debt so that you have low debt levels, then you can make more dramatic changes to the economic system and its connections without running the risk of blowing up the financial system, right?
The US might revalue its gold to a much higher price and then use it as an escape valve to stabilize the price of oil. I said a lot there. What does that mean? So right now, the US government officially holds 8,000 tons of gold, allegedly. That gold is sitting on the government's balance sheet, but the crazy part is that gold is valued at only $42 an ounce right now. That is the official price. It has not been updated since 1973, aka the Nixon era.
What? What?
Now hold on. Why would the government want to suppress the price of its own gold? It's because gold competes with bonds. We know this because pay attention to what Scott Bessent says at the end of this little segment. There's one thing you cannot do with gold that you can do with bonds.
Gold can't have a fiscal problem. Gold cannot have a gigantic budget deficit. Gold cannot have a war.
So we can't use gold because gold can't be used to fund more wars because we can't print more of it. So every time gold goes up, it's basically the market's way of saying, we trust this shiny rock more than we trust your government, which tells the world, don't buy treasuries, don't hold them, hold gold instead. Right? That is a bad thing for a country that needs the entire world.
Everybody talking about Bitcoin, but hey, gold and silver is where it's at, boy.
To keep buying its debt. That is why the price of the US government's holdings of gold is locked at $42 an ounce. However, the price of gold in the real world is not $42 an ounce. Today, it's trading at over $5,000 per ounce. So this theory says the Treasury could just reprice it. It's called mark to market. That means overnight, that pile of US government gold goes from being worth about $11 billion on paper to being worth somewhere closer to $1.3 trillion. So we could just create over $1 trillion in real assets with basically an accounting trick. It's a magic trick. Now, $1.3 trillion in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. It's not going to pay off the national debt, but it doesn't need to. They could also hypothetically revalue the gold at a much, much higher price than the market. Nothing stops them from doing that. Now, if that sounds crazy, you're right, but the US government has done this before 3 other times. The first time was 1934.
That's the bullshit I fucking sense. That's a level of bullshit I do detect.
During the Great Depression, FDR needed money because the economy was collapsing. The government was basically broke. So he issued Executive Order 6102. You had to turn in your gold to the government at the official rate of $20 an ounce. And then once the government got everyone's gold, they just repriced it overnight to $35 an ounce, a 70% increase. The Treasury's balance sheet got an instant boost without borrowing a single dollar and without raising any taxes. The second time was 1972. Nixon repriced gold from $35 to $38 an ounce, and the third time was in 1973. Nixon again bumped it to $42.22, and then nothing. Crickets for over 50 years. The price has been stuck, just frozen at $42.22, while the market price of gold went from $42 to $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 to now over $5,000 per ounce. So this has been done 3 other times in US history by 2 presidents, And each time, it was used as an emergency to shore up the government's balance sheet when there was no other good options. But hold on, there is a second reason why the US might want to reprice its gold. Gold could also be used as an escape valve to bring down and stabilize the price of oil. Hold on, how? So think about why oil producers like Saudi Arabia and OPEC sell their oil in dollars in the first place. It's because of the deal that goes back to the 1970s. You price your oil in dollars, you park your profits in US Treasury bonds, and we guarantee the dollar stays strong so you don't get ripped off, and we protect you. That's the petrodollar system. But what if instead of paying these oil producers in dollars and Treasury bonds, which are losing in value and less countries want them, what if you said, we'll give you gold? And not just any gold, right? Gold at a much higher price. Right now, oil is getting much more expensive. It's maybe going to wreck the global economy, potentially. But what if the US said to someone like Saudi Arabia, hey, we'll buy your oil at $50 a barrel, but we'll pay you in gold, valued at $10,000 an ounce. Right? At those ratios, they're actually getting more purchasing power per barrel than they are today at, say, $100. Right? They might take that deal. Maybe the US does this temporarily to resupply its strategic petroleum reserves. Oil prices could come down, inflation comes down, and the Fed gets room to breathe. Right? The recession risk drops because oil is stable. The US pays for it, not with printed money, but with gold it already owns, repriced much higher, without spiking inflation. If that sounds crazy to you, this is also not a new idea. Back in 1973, right after the Arab oil embargo, European countries were planning to do this, to revalue their gold reserves and then use that gold.
So you're telling me they might fuck around and take my gold? No! They get to fuck around and fucking still find out? Damn, bro, why do they always fucking win, bruh?
To pay off their bills with OPEC. The US blocked it, right? They needed oil to be priced in dollars to build a petrodollar system and to spread freedom, but now the US could end up suffering this oil-driven inflation with no other good options. This is a possible option, and it's been done before. Now, could some of this apply to Bitcoin? Maybe. Is it guaranteed to happen?
Bro,
not necessarily,
but
it's a possibility, and I think it's a very interesting theory.
After Epstein was talking about Bitcoin, I don't know about that, bruh. I don't know about Bitcoin, bro. I don't know. There's a lot of bullshit going on in this world. I feel like we just need to focus on our bullshit. I think that's all we really need to do. I think as Americans, we just need to focus on our bullshit. We don't need to worry about all these other countries. We don't need to do all that extra shit. We just need to focus on our bullshit. Realistically, I think that's all we have to do. Simple as that, right? I think that's. Because if we don't, it just is gonna get worse from here. It's March 18th. 2026. It's kind of crazy right now. Buy you some gold, buy you some silver, get you a cold one, get you a fucking freezing one. Because clearly the world is fucking going insane. Because clearly we're not in the right mind. We're not in the right state of mind. Get ready for war, cause fuck it, bro. Let's all get deployed. Fuck all that. Let's just all get fucking. Let's start the fucking shit I'm ready for. Let's go ahead and get packed up and packed off. Let's go ahead and get some bombs popping. I'm ready for it, chat. Woo! Have a good night.